In this video, we're going to have a look at how we set up a sequence equation to help us work out a problem involving regular payments to pay off a loan. Prior to going through this problem, it's recommended you pause the video here, read the problem, and we'll have a look at some of the key features of this question that will help us work out how to find the solution. We've highlighted the key parts of this question in the different colours. So we can see here that Yuri has borrowed $10,000. The interest rate is 6% per annum. Now what that means is, as well as borrowing $10,000, every time period we add some extra money. It's kind of like the price that Yuri has to pay for borrowing this money. Now it's calculated quarterly. Now quarterly means 4 times per year, or once every 3 months. And Yuri also pays back $800 every quarter. So what happens is we hope that the loan is reducing so that each quarter Yuri owes a little bit less. Now what we'll do first of all to help us with our calculations is work out what that 6% per annum actually is per quarter. So 6% per annum means 6% per year. We need to divide that by 4 because there are 4 quarters in a year. And as a decimal answer, that comes out to be 1.5%. So that's the rate we're going to use to calculate the extra money that Yuri owes each quarter. Now let's have a look at how we work out what Yuri owes at the end of the first quarter. We know he's borrowed $10,000, so that's the base amount that he has to pay back. Also what happens is there's some extra interest that's being added. Again, that's kind of like the price that Yuri has to pay for borrowing this money. We work out the percentage by going 1.5 divided by 100 because a percentage is out of 100, and we multiply that figure by 10,000. So that's the extra payment. But also Yuri is paying back $800. So what that means is that's being subtracted from the loan. So every quarter he pays back $800, and the way we show that in our calculation is by putting minus 800 at the end of that expression. So how do we work out what Yuri owes after any quarter? Well, there's some things in that expression for the first quarter that are consistent throughout every calculation. So let's have a look at what he owes after any quarter, and we'll label it quarter N. Well, he first of all owes the amount he owed from the last quarter, and we'll put in brackets there N minus 1. Then there's the extra payment that he owes. That's the interest. So what we do is we work out 1.5% of what he owed from the previous quarter, because that's the interest. And then what we do is we subtract 800 because that's the payment every quarter. That's going to be consistent for every quarter that we use. Looking at this further, we can do some algebra now, and what we'll do is we'll factorize out the amount from the previous quarter, which is quarter brackets N minus 1. And what we're left with inside the bracket is 1 plus 1.5 divided by 100. Now keep in mind what that expression in the bracket is basically saying is that you owe whatever you owed from the previous quarter plus 1.5%. We'll now use that same expression into a sequence equation. So what we have is the amount owing at quarter N is expressed now as Tn, so some term, and it's equal to the amount from the previous quarter, in this case T and a subscript N minus 1, multiplied by the same value in the bracket, which is 1 plus 1.5 divided by 100, and we're still subtracting 800 for each quarter. And our starting amount after 0 quarters is $10,000. We can also rewrite that sequence equation by making the first term Tn plus 1 and making the previous one Tn. It's still exactly the same equation in terms of the calculation that we can achieve. So we can use our calculator and this sequence equation to work out what Yuri owes after various quarters. Let's have a look at some values now. So after 0 quarters, he owes $10,000. And after 1 quarter, $9,350. So it's reducing, which is what we'd expect if we're paying off a loan. And the further we go down the sequence, we can see T12, so after 12 quarters is $1,523.21. And then it's reducing at T13, and then at T14, it's actually negative. So that means that Yuri doesn't owe any more money. He's paid off the loan. So now we're in a position to answer the question, how long does it take to pay this loan? We can see from the list of values in front of us that it takes 14 terms for the amount to go below 0. But if we were to say 14 terms, that doesn't make much sense in the context of this question. We could say it takes 14 quarters, But again, quarters is probably not a commonly used word when people talk about time. So what we do is we divide 14 by 4 because there are 4 quarters in a year, and it turns out it's 3.5 years is the length of time it takes to pay off the loan. We could also say 3.5 years or 3 years and 6 months is the time taken to pay the loan.